Stay tuned because next up is David Charles Allen, Village Properties Realtor and host of The Hop. That's Home Ownership Podcast, here to tell us all about real estate, especially in Santa Barbara.
Welcome to The Hop. This is David Charles Allen, Realtor at Village Properties in Santa Barbara, California. My great friend and co-host, Patti Teal. I'm doing wonderful today, Patti. How you doing?
I'm doing great too, David.
Good. We got more rain here in Santa Barbara. Been raining all yesterday. Temperatures look for the 50s and 60s coming up and maybe some more rain on the way.
Wow, that's kind of exciting, but I hope that there's not danger of mudslides. You guys have seen so much rain.
Everything's been working out really well so far. That first big rain we had a bunch of flooding on freeways and some roads, but we haven't seen that since.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I hope everybody stays safe.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's been some surf as well, but with the couple big rainstorms, the water's pretty brown and it was a little bit too windy the last couple of days as well.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Maybe when the rain clears away, there'll still be some surf. We can keep our fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, there was a really good couple days between the last couple rains. There's some really fun days to be had. So hopefully there's more on the horizon.
Oh, yes, hope so.
And then some big changes in the interest rates too. We had a big drop down to 5.375 for 30-year jumbo and 6% for 30-year conforming. So almost a 0.5% drop since last week.
Well, that is exciting news.
Don't know why exactly that's happening or if it's going to keep going down or going to pop back up. But there was all that activity with bailout of the Silicon Valley Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's kind of rallying around that, it seems like.
Yeah, it does seem like that's had its effect.
It definitely had some kind of effect in terms of rates and everything else. And then in terms of how the statistics have performed, we got 26 new listings, 13 price changes, 19 that closed, 27 that went pending, 4 back on the market, and 3 coming soon. So again, new listings are pretty down. Pendings are right back up there, even with new listings. I think we talked about it. We had a little bit of a lull over the winter where we're seeing homes stay on the market, taking a little longer to sell, selling for under asking price. And these last few weeks now, we've really seen it pick back up, it seems like, where we're getting multiple offers. Homes are selling within the first week or two of being on the market. So I'm not seeing dramatic price increases like we were before, but we're just seeing a lot more activity. So it's going to be interesting coming into the buying season, if we're going to get enough supply to support it, or if we're going to go on another rally where everything just kind of starts taking off again.
Right. It's really hard to predict, isn't it? And if you try to research it, you get such varied opinions.
Yeah, there's a million different opinions for everybody. So it's really hard to know what's going to be right for you. And if you have someone to talk to, that's always going to be the best.
Absolutely.
Any questions today for me?
Well, I got a couple of questions, David. You kind of brought up the one when you mentioned the bank failures. I was wondering if you think that's going to have an effect on the housing market. I know that it could affect getting a loan, I would think, but maybe not. So what's your opinion on how these bank failures, do you think they're isolated incidences or do you think that it's a trend?
No, it's really hard to say what's going to happen. I know even they switched up. I mean, they originally came out and said they weren't going to bail it out, that bank. And then 12 hours later, they bail them out. So you can't really trust anyone what they're saying. And yeah, there's a lot of banks that started crashing or their stock at least started going down significantly. Even some that are in town that are local. You know, when you have no banks, how are you going to get a loan? It's very tough and it's really hard to predict how that's going to affect the real estate market, but everything kind of coincides together. If people are losing a bunch of money and aren't able to afford houses, then prices are going to drop. It really relates to interest rates as well and affordability. If interest rates are high and people are losing money in other ways, that's going to really depress the market and then the whole economy after that. And I think we got to such low interest rates before because of that whole recession we went through about 15 years ago. They had to drop the rates so people could start affording it. And then that really rallied the market. And now it's inflated in a sense.
Right. So I guess our advice is buckle your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. See what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to say. I mean, banks, that's how they operate. They
Mhm.
operate of having no real money in the bank, and they make long-term bond purchases and earn a small interest. So if everyone's trying to get their money out of a bank at once, it's going to cause a collapse, no matter which bank it is. I think they got rid of it a couple years ago, maybe, where banks don't even need to have deposits on hand. So they can have 50 billion in liabilities and have 10 or 5 billion in cash, and they're still able to operate legally. If the bank run happens for every bank will collapse. So it's
Wow, that would
interesting.
just be a nightmare, wouldn't it? So I guess maybe I really am no expert, so don't take my word for it, but it makes sense then that the feds had to come in to do a bailout because last thing we want is a run on the banking system in the US.
Yeah, I mean, some people could say it's proposed in a sense where they want to run on the bank in the system, which is very
Ah,
odd, and then get into the digital aspect to kind of remove the dollar. Instead of having a dollar, everything's going to be done digitally. So
mm-hmm.
who knows what's really going to happen?
Yes, well, definitely it's beyond my pay grade to figure it out, but thank you. I know
Yeah.
that somehow it was related to crypto and some of the banks were heavily invested in crypto, but really I don't want to give any advice because I'm not qualified.
Yeah, it's all speculation. It
Mhm.
always is until it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Until it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
So, David, also, we've been going through some different areas in Santa Barbara. Last week, we talked about the Funk Zone, and you talked about San Marquin before that, and Elwood Shores in Goleta. And I was wondering if we could talk about the West Side today and perhaps how it's changed.
Yeah, the West Side, it's definitely gone through a transition, it seems like, where it's become a lot more desirable in a sense. There's some really nice neighborhoods or parts of the West Side that back up and you get some really pretty mountain views. And there's also multiple lots with kind of duplexes or two homes on them. So we're getting a lot more people that are interested in living in the front home, renting out the back home. Before the West Side wasn't maybe as desirable, but with change in how much supply is really in Santa Barbara and how limited we are, everything's come more desirable in a sense because whatever you can afford and whatever you can get into, you're going to make it work for yourself. But there are some really cute little streets on the West Side, kind of the backside of the West Side, where you get these a little bit larger lots. You get these really nice views. It's very quiet, peaceful back there. Some of the West Side is kind of commercial as well. So it's kind of like a mixed use, which is
Mm-hmm.
why before it maybe not as desirable as before, but it's a cute little spot to live.
Yeah, and that area certainly has its Santa Barbara charm. And you could also walk or ride your bike downtown. It's not very far.
Yeah, walk would be a little far. Maybe it's like a mile and a half,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, riding your bike would be really quick work. Just right over the freeway and you're right downtown.
Right. Well, thank you for that, David. I thought also we haven't talked maybe about our pooches lately for our Fur Babies at Home segment. And I have a funny story to tell, but I'll let you go first. Have your dogs done anything cute or amusing this last week?
They're always so cute and amusing. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
pick one specific thing. I mean, Moose feels like he's filling out more and more. So
Oh,
I don't know if
yeah.
it's muscle or if he's getting fat.
Next
His
time I'm in
neck
Santa
is,
Barbara, I really hope I get a chance to meet him. He just sounds like
yes,
a gentle, funny giant.
he's a
So,
gentle
yeah.
giant for sure.
So part of my story is not funny because I had a sick dog. Ollie got sick, vomiting and diarrhea. It wasn't good. And then Tuffy got it. And Tuffy being a pug with the snub nose, everything's always more serious for him. And he ended up going into emergency, but he seems to be on the mend. But Ollie, the second day after he wasn't feeling so good one day, the next day he was feeling much better. But weirdly, he wouldn't walk on one of his back legs. I mean, it was just like a three-legged dog. And I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. I thought maybe he got a thorn up in his paw, or did he break his leg? I'd press on it and there was nothing. And he laid on the couch. He wouldn't jump down. I had to lift him up and he wasn't putting any weight on it. So by that afternoon, I decided it was time to go to the vet. I'm not one to rush into vets, but I decided there might be something really wrong. So I told him, okay, we're going. I put his leash on. Let's go. I'll have to stop at the post office first. And he walked perfectly well, just like absolutely fine. So he's definitely got an odd little personality. Maybe something hurt him in the morning and he was just decided it was going to hurt the rest of the day and just instant healing. It was a miracle.
I think a lot of things too are related to some kind of stress the dog's going through. I have a friend who's like really close to his dog. Basically, he's with him 24/7, but when he goes on work trips, he'll be gone for like a week. And when he comes home, the dog will have like a back problem or like something like that, where they just like induce some kind of trauma in their body. And it comes out in like a physical form where they're walking different. And then usually they're back to normal within a day or two once they get a normal routine going back. So,
right. And it was just instant, so let's go.
Yeah.
We're going to leave the house. And all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm fine.
He's like, yeah, I'm not sick anymore. Oh, yeah, wait, I'm chill.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no problems here.
I think something must have hurt him and he just decided it was too hurt to even risk it. And then he forgot about it for a moment and he's been fine ever since.
There you go. Yeah, that too. It could be actual physical trauma or just some kind of stress related trauma coming out in the physical form.
Yeah. So I've got Disney Plus now and I've been binge watching Caesar shows. So I think myself quite the expert now. I watch it with the dogs and you see the funniest things. There was one dog who would only walk backwards because he accidentally crashed into a sliding glass door. And ever since then, he was just too scared to walk frontwards in the house. But
oh, wow. That's so funny.
Caesar got him fixed up, but you just never know what's going through their little minds.
You really don't know. It's hard.
It is hard. Well, David, thank you for all your expert advice. If anyone wants to get a hold of you to explore Santa Barbara or to get your input on real estate in Santa Barbara, how would they reach you?
My number is 805-617-9311 and my email is david@davidcharlesallen.com.
Thanks, David. Have a great week.
All right, you too, Patty. It's going to go next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.